Good evening and welcome to the Gin and Tonic Show on the Friday, the 29th of September. Good evening to everybody, to the viewers and to the commenters. Initially, I have with me Lily, or Lilith Severo, I think it is, as the tag name
Cuervo.
there. Lily, welcome. I want to welcome Sarah. Good evening, Sarah. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Are
Can you guys
you?
hear me?
Yes, you can. Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, I said
So
I'm
what?
doing great, thank you. How are you?
Fantastic. Yes, I'm good. I'm good. It's a pleasure to have both of you on here. The topic for
Thank
this
you.
evening, as you are well aware, is women in Islam, which is obviously quite a general, wide topic. But I'd like to get started just again generally. If each of you could share for 5 or 10 minutes, whatever works for you, your beliefs just in general, and obviously you'll hit certain topics, but just share in general your view about women in Islam, i.e., what it was like for you in Islam, and now looking from the outside, looking in. So, whoever wants to start, go ahead.
Maybe I should go first. Okay. This is kind of funny
She can
because
start.
when I was actually experiencing it, I I had mixed feelings. I didn't feel like I was the most liberated and non-oppressed. Of course, I wouldn't use the word oppressed to describe myself because that's not how I felt. But I also didn't feel like I was free to do whatever I wanted. But of course, looking back, I would say that I was definitely more restricted than what I should have been, or whatever. But well, I felt like there were certain things that I had an obligation to do, and it wasn't so much that I wanted to do them, but I just didn't have a choice. So I pretty much just resigned myself to the basic things: wearing hijab, wearing really long dark clothes in the summer, and sweating a lot, and having to endure the heat because somebody comes and tells you, hey, it's better to endure a little bit of heat here than to endure the heat of hell. So it's not that I wanted very much to wear all that stuff. It was just that I kind of resigned myself to it, like, oh, I guess it's not that bad. It was more of a apathetic kind of attitude towards it. It wasn't that I was you know promoting it for anyone. I actually did get kind of you know jealous when I would see other girls my age that were in different families that didn't have to go through the motions and wear the things that I was wearing. I did feel like they were lucky, and that, like, I wish that I could wear those things. But that's part of the brainwashing, is like, oh, you want to be able to wear a bathing suit and go to the pool like a normal person. You'll be able to go to your pool in Jannah. It's no problem. Like, don't worry about it. So so you pretty much don't think about it too much, and therefore, by not thinking about it, you don't give yourself this, like, emotional turmoil. um
So it's almost like
and
you
there were
just get
there
on with
were
life.
When
yeah, I kind of just resigned myself to it as, oh, I don't really have a choice, so I can't really complain, kind of thing. And the other big thing was having brothers. uh, Being raised in a Muslim household and having brothers and being a girl, you see how much freedom and how much privilege boys have in comparison to myself, or to other girls and stuff in general.
I feel
And
you.
so it's not just yeah, it's not just comparing yourself to daughters from other families. You're comparing yourself to siblings, to children within your own family. So you're like, wow, my brothers get away with murder. They can do whatever, figuratively, obviously, they can do whatever they want. They really can. They can go out, they can wear whatever they want. They don't have a curfew, really. They can they can date. They're not being pressured to get married young. They weren't getting pressured to look for a wife when they were 16. So there was so much more opportunity. They were encouraged to do things that would give them uh, the opportunity later in life to get a job easier, and to join society later. Because it's like, um when you grow up sheltered and then you go and try to find a job, you realize that, oh, look, I don't have any references because I wasn't allowed to talk to anyone. Oh, I wasn't in any extracurricular activities. I didn't volunteer. I didn't do anything. I was restricted from having a social life, and that damages your integration later in life when you're trying to just function in society. So
preach. This is exactly what I
I know. So the difference about women in Islam, I'm not comparing women in Islam with women out of Islam. I'm comparing women in Islam with men in Islam. Because the men in Islam, even if they're not technically like allowed to date, when, for example, yeah, they're not allowed to date. Like, it's still zina, it's still a sin. But if your mom catches her son and he's, messing around with a girl, it's not the end of the world. It's like, oh, we kind of expected that from him. He has a girlfriend. He's been kissing this girl. If her daughter does it, oh my gosh, it's an atomic bomb just dropped on the household. She's devastated. She's crying. Oh my gosh, my daughter kissed a boy when she was like 20 years old. Oh my gosh, she had her first kiss. She didn't even do anything with him. She's still a virgin. She didn't even fuck him. But it's the end of the world because she's like just wants to date, or like even not even want to date, but like just wants to do normal things. But they put so much emphasis on the whole virginity thing. And for what Sarah, your connection is kind of cutting in and out, but they put so much emphasis on the virginity thing and the purity of a woman that it's kind of like backwards to me. I don't understand like how the younger and younger they will try to encourage their daughters to get married, at 15, 16, or even younger, because they're trying to preempt her sexual growth. So like normally, if she wouldn't have even started getting these urges until she was 20, they're trying to get her to get married before she even has those feelings naturally. When she's, because I said before, both my parents introduced me to guys when I was 16, and I wasn't even thinking about boys back then. So it was kind of, I felt like it was backwards. Like, I'm trying to be pure here, like you said, but you're trying to get me married, get someone to fuck me. Like, I'm too young to be doing that. But just because of my age, you're imposing these ideas that you have about my maturity, about my sexual maturity and growth. And so when when I actually do start to reach that level, which is quite late by normal standards, 20 years old, it's kind of late to finally start to have those feelings. And there's so much emphasis put on marriage, and marriage is probably the big, I would say marriage is the second biggest commitment you can make in your life, because you can have a child, you can't divorce your child. But aside from having a kid, if you get married, that is a huge commitment. And they just, in Islam, marriage is treated like nothing. Like, everyone is encouraged to get married. So, I think it's damaging to encourage a very young, 15, 16-year-old girl to, hey, you should start, looking at, thinking of finding a husband. Tell me if there's a guy you like, and I'll have your dad go talk to him. And she's like, I'm 16. I'm trying to go to high school. I'm trying to pick out a college. I'm trying to, I'm not concerned with marrying right now. Yes, I shouldn't be thinking about that until way later. But anyway, like, that was just some of the stuff that I needed to.
No, absolutely right. And I think it's, you've now come into a Western society, and they're bringing these old-fashioned beliefs that let's assume, if we were very charitable, that in fact women did need to be taken care of in the 7th century, and they couldn't take care of themselves to some degree, which I'm not sure that's the case. Probably not, but let's assume that were the case. We're now in the 21st century, certainly in the Western world anyway, and women have got so much more opportunities. They can in fact take care of themselves if they so choose to. They don't have to, of course, but they could. And so, yeah, it's bringing that mentality of, hey, look, you're a woman, you've got to be taken care of. You've got to find a man. Otherwise, what would you do? Like you say, go to college, learn, study, follow whatever you want to do, have a career, whatever you want to do. But I guess the mentality is not that. it's still the older mentality.
I just wanted to mention one more thing before I go. This is a little off topic. It doesn't have anything to do with my personal story, but you know, as I said before, like ethnically, I'm not like Arab or African or any type of, that. My parents were converts. So you can't blame culture for these things. You'd be like, oh, that's just culture, because it's not anywhere in either of my parents' culture. It's obviously religion. And I was thinking about this the other day. There was this article I read on 17 magazine, and it was about this Palestinian girl. Well, she was actually, born and raised in America, but she was Palestinian American. And when she was 15, her mom took her to Palestine and forced her to marry this guy. She basically like sold her, and he consummated the marriage, and she was not for it and everything. And it was a very long article. It was pretty sad, but it's interesting. If anyone wants to read it, it's on 17 magazine. And after that, after that article came out, there was a response article by another Muslim girl who was, I feel like she was trying to defend the image of Muslim girls in America or something like that. And so the title of the original article was "My Strict Mother Forced Me to Marry a Stranger When I Was 15." And and the girl who responded to that, the title of her article was "My Parents Did Not Take Me Overseas and Force Me to Get Married." And she was Palestinian too. So she was trying to say, like, it was funny because she was like, she got offended, but in this case, you can't blame culture, because if it was the case, then they're both Palestinian. They both have the same culture. So she would have had the same fate. And why? It's because the first girl, her parents were more strict Islamically, and the second girl was trying to give this image that this wasn't Islam. And it was really, I found it disgusting, because I felt that the second girl was trying to belittle the first girl's experience of basically being stolen out of America and taken out of school and taken to Palestine to be given away to some random stranger. Because it's so, oh my God, like, read the story. It's like the girl, she was 15, and she was like talking to this boy at school, just talking, like they weren't even doing anything. And then one day the boy came to her house and knocked on the door, and then her dad answered, and he said, "Who are you?" And he said, "I'm her boyfriend." And by saying that, he had no idea what he had done. Like, he thought he was just introducing himself to her family. He didn't realize what he did.
What was he?
Yeah, he wasn't Muslim. He was just some
Okay.
probably, yeah. So so he left or whatever, and they were like, "Oh, you want to date boys? You want to be sexually active? Like, here, let's take you so you can really be sexually active." Like, the answer to your daughter or a young woman's like growth, like I said before, is to force her to go all in completely, even if she's not ready to be married, so that she can be truly and thoroughly like fucked, excuse my
Yes.
because she wasn't ready for that. She didn't want to do that. She was just like literally talking to the boy, like she might have kissed him once or twice, but like her mom was like, "Oh, it's time to marry you off." So she probably sold her for like a dowry or something, and then she left her there with the guy, and left her there without a phone or anything. And then she managed to get into contact with someone from the embassy, and they were able to bring her back to America and get her placed into a foster home with a family that adopted her. So there was a happy ending, but it was just, the thing that was the most disgusting was the fact that this other girl read this girl's story, and it was in 17 magazine, which is like a really popular magazine. And then she was like, "Oh, I have to prove that this doesn't represent us." And so she went out of her way to try to belittle, and downgrade like that girl's story as if it wasn't as serious as it was. Anyway, I'm done.
So obviously, Lily, you touched on the inequality as you see it between man and woman in Islam itself. share with us some of your thoughts to the degree that you're able and willing around some of the other issues that you might see with women in Islam as you now look at it from the outside looking in. So something like, circumcision, or more commonly known as female genital mutilation, FGM. Any thoughts on that?
As far as like not speaking from a concept of inequality, well, I don't feel that I have a place to talk about that, because obviously I haven't experienced that. And for the longest time, I myself am guilty of using apologetics to say that that has nothing to do with Islam. In the past, like years ago, I remember, saying that that's not Islam, that's a cultural thing. Oh yeah, she dropped out. But even male circumcision is like kind of a touchy, weird subject. It's curious because you're being told that there's a thing that you have to cut off because of the perfect design. So God designed us so perfectly that he gave us something that we don't need and that we have to cut off. He gave us a lot of things we have to cut off, apparently.
Yes, but let's move on to what happens to a woman, and why is it not the same for men when a woman disobeys her husband? What happens if a husband disobeys his wife? Is there any comeback on a husband?
I mean, I saw this hadith, or I don't know if it was a hadith or just a speech or something. It's strange. It was my my cousin's wife. Like, they just got married recently, and she posted this thing, and it was talking about how a man has to please his wife, and how he can't leave her crying. It's all about her. And I mean, I know it's probably fake. There's no way that that's a real hadith or something, but it was so weird. She was trying to justify his actions because he doesn't respect her that much. It's weird. And I don't know if it's a real hadith, or if it's just somebody like a sheikh talking about how a woman should be treated. So
I think it's just stupid apologetics.
But Ali, can your stops just go over the 3 steps of what happens for everybody who doesn't know? What are the 3 steps if a woman disobeys her husband? What is prescribed?
Now you mean like in the Quran, when you first you should ignore her, and lastly you should beat her.
434.
434. Yep. So first you should admonish her, then you should sleep in beds apart, and then if nothing else, then you should beat her. One of the translations says lightly, others just say beat. So we'll take it as beat.
I think it's فَضْرِبُوهُنَّ in Arabic, if I remember correctly. فَضْرِبُوهُنَّ means so. That it doesn't exist in English. Hunna doesn't. You can't translate that, but it means them, female, them. You see what I'm saying? Them in female form. So beat them in female form.
Yeah, isn't it strike them, beat them? Yeah, exactly.
ضرب يضرب.
Yes, now again.
I just found something.
But the modern
website.
way is different. The modern one says no, you should divorce them.
No, فضرب.
Darab?
فضرب,
Like
because the word ضرب exists in several places in Quran. It's also like فضرب بعصاك الحجر in Surah Al-Baqarah. So hit with your stick the rock. Moses should hit with his stick the rock. فضرب بعصاك الحجر. فانفجر. You understand?
No.
Yes.
Like Moses, he should hit the rock with his stick, his magic stick, or so that the Oyun, the rivers will spring out of it.
Okay, what's that got to do with anything though? Is this
because it's the same word? It's the same word. Hit with your stick.
Okay.
To strike.
I'm with you.
Exact same word.
Yes.
if a man gets that mad at his wife that he hits her, he's not gonna hit her lightly. He might punch her in the face. He might pull her hair. There's a lot of things. So I mean, for God, the perfect God, to tell men to hit women, knowing that men are flawed and have rage, is kind of I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of dumb, honestly. I know that sounds bad to say, but it just sounds dumb because you don't know. I mean, he obviously knows, but I'm saying men have a temperament. Like, I'm not saying everyone has a different temperament, but I'm saying maybe one guy is nice and he's gonna be like, I'm just gonna pat you lightly on your forehead or something, or the side of your face, but the other guy is gonna full on punch. And also, men have different strengths. Some guys are very strong, some guys aren't. It's really flawed, honestly. I don't know why people don't see this.
But of course, it's a one-way thing, isn't it? So women obviously must obey their husbands, but husbands don't have to obey their wife. Now, when I've approached a couple of people in Speaker's Corner about this on occasions, they go, no, wives are actually in charge. Go, look, and they try to give, a westernized version where, the woman is in charge and she's looking after the money and she's in the household and she's kind of telling men what to do. So it's almost like that they are literally doing the apologetics of an emasculated man, which there may be, and there probably is, some Western men who do that, and having done, having some expertise in relationship training, that is in fact the case in some of the Western world, well, certainly in the UK, and I would suspect in Europe as well to some degree. But he made it sound as if in fact, no, women are in charge. But I still asked the question, which I never got a response to. Well, what happens if a man, quote, disobeys his wife, even in your emasculated version of events? No response. So
nothing happens. He doesn't have any sins written against him.
there you go.
God doesn't care what he does.
She's not allowed to beat him lightly with a feather or anything, is it?
If a woman was to hit a man, they would be like, "Are you a man?" That's the response. I mean, even my mother, when I decide to do anything that I like, she'll be like, "Do you think you're a boy? Do you think you're a boy?" And I mean, I have to reply and be like, "Yeah, inside my soul, I'm a boy."
What example? Give an example of what?
For example, going out until, let's say, 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. She'll be like, "Do you think you're a boy? Come back home. You look like,
You are
a bad
in
girl."
the US, aren't you? You're based in the US or North America, let's just say.
Yeah, I'm from the US, but I'm actually back in my homeland. And I don't want to
No, sure.
say
But
which one.
your homeland is not the US, obviously.
Yes, it's not.
If I had to guess, it was somewhere more far away from the US. So
Yes, but I mean, it's actually really it's really liberal in comparison to most Arab countries.
Are you allowed out? Are you allowed, when she's talking about, you going out, is that in the US or is that where you are now?
In the US, and it doesn't matter. I could be making us look bad. Oh, like, for example, go out with my guy friends. If she sees me, she'll be like, "What are people gonna think? Don't come near the neighborhood. Go really far away."
This is in the US.
Because do you think you're a boy? It's always like, do you think you're a boy? This is in US. This is in my homeland too. A place that I go.
Yeah, but I mean, I could understand the mentality in your homeland, but it's more difficult in the US where everybody's doing that sort of thing. That's the norm.
When I was a kid, actually, I wasn't allowed to go play outside. I wasn't allowed to even go to the library because by myself, because they didn't want me to talk to any boys. My whole life was controlled based on the fact that I'm a girl and I'm not allowed to talk to any boys. I remember I was like 16 and I wanted to have a job, and they kept promising me that they were going to allow me to get a job, but they didn't. The male, like other co-employees, or like, I don't know, other people there, or even customers, they didn't want anybody to flirt with me or talk to me. They didn't want me to be anywhere near boys. So it's kind of, they don't care what country they're in, excuse me. They're just going to control me no matter what, if I'm in my homeland or there. But now, of course, I'm a little bit older, so I just do whatever I want. Not whatever I want. I still listen generally to my mom, but I fight back a little bit more. I'm like, no, these are my friends. I'm going to go out with them. I'm going to go out to the cafe. I'm going to hang out with them. Before, it was so difficult. I couldn't be in a group. Like, for example, when I came back to my homeland, everybody was, girls and boys, they hang out with each other. It's totally cool. And it's, it's weird. She grew up in the homeland, right? And she knows this. She knows that, girls and boys can hang out. But because we lived in America and we were surrounded by more religious people, because in my homeland, they're not that religious. But in America, when we went to the Islamic community was so religious that she was influenced heavily by them. Because in our country, in our original country, it's not even like that. Little girls don't wear hijab. You can see a woman, she has her daughter's dressed up, like Western, and her mom's wearing, nobody cares. Basically in my home country, you can be a girl, you can have whatever you want, like you can do whatever you want. Not whatever you want, but you could still be a normal girl. But once you get married, you should wear hijab. Like, that's the only thing. And once you turn a certain age, then you get married. Depending on your husband, if he wants you to wear hijab, you wear it. If he doesn't, then you don't have to wear it. But in America, it was so strange. I remember I used to study in my home country. And this sounds so weird for me to keep saying that. But I used to study like in first grade, second grade. And then I finally went to America and I lived there. And I was shocked because in my home country, I was allowed to do all these things, and I was allowed to be a kid, and I was allowed to go outside, and I was allowed to play, and I was allowed to have male friends. But then when I went to America, because of the Islamic community that we were surrounded by, they were so religious and so extreme that suddenly I wasn't allowed to go play outside. I wasn't allowed to talk to any boys. I wasn't allowed to play with the boys. I wasn't allowed. The girls didn't even want to hang out with me because originally I was playing with the boys, and then when my parents stopped me, it was complicated. If I questioned anything, it was an issue. If I stood up for myself and said, why is it that I can't do this anymore, they would say, oh, you're like blasphemous, you shouldn't ask these questions, you're a girl, you're not allowed to do this and that. And of
Yes.
course I saw my brothers being able to do whatever they want, and honestly I must say my brothers are actually very cool. They've never told me what to do or anything like that, but I always noticed the difference. For example, one time we went to the mall, and I think I was like 14 or 13, and my brother, he brought his new girlfriend, and my mom met her, and she was so happy and she was nice, and like a normal
How
Western
old was your
mother,
brother?
right?
How old was your brother then, though?
I think he was maybe he was 20. Yeah, because
Okay.
yeah.
Mhm.
So he brought his girlfriend to the mall, and we were all hanging out. And I just jokingly said to my mom, "Oh, so when I'm 20, can I bring my boyfriend to the mall and we can all hang out?" And she said, "Ew, do you think you're a boy? Do you think like it's everything? Every response that I've ever gotten was, "Do you think you're a boy?"
Well, what did she expect
Um,
from you, though? What would have been the you know your mother, so what would you expect of you at age
Marriage.
20?
By the time I'm 18, by the time I should turn 18, I should already be married. Because actually she did this. I remember the first time they brought up marriage, I was like 15. It was, and this is kind of weird to say, but I got my period around that time, like 14, 15. So as soon as they knew that I had my period, they started telling me, hey, like my stepdad, he told me, there's this man. I remember he picked me up from school, and then we parked somewhere, and he said, there's this man, he's 35. We want you to get married to him because we want to have a good relationship with his family. And I literally laughed in his face. And for me to laugh in his face was such a brave thing, because he used to hit me when I was a kid. So I was, I couldn't even help myself. I just laughed in his face and I said, ha 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 ha, hell no. And that's like out of character.
How old were you at that stage?
I was like 15
And this was in
when
the
he said that
US
to me.
or back in your home country?
Yes, in the US.
Right.
He's my stepdad is not even from my homeland. He's from a different country.
But he's Muslim,
Yeah,
obviously.
he's Muslim.
Yeah.
So then my mom, when I was like 17, she kept she was back in the homeland, and I was still in America with my stepdad the whole time. Like, she left me for like 3 years and a half with him. And she called me, and she was trying to fill my head with this idea of, when you come back to the homeland, you're gonna get married to this dude. And basically their whole intention was to basically use me to take him to America. That was the whole purpose. But they also wanted me to be married to him and have children and everything. And it was all my, I would say it was all my aunt's idea. She was the one that really pushed it. She would go up to my mom. This is what my brother told me. He told me that my aunt would call him, and she would tell him, do you want your sister to be a whore? Like, because he wasn't supporting this initially. Like, my oldest brother, he didn't support this, but my aunt would call him and be like, do you want your sister to be a whore? And then she made him feel some type of way. But the only one who defended me the whole entire time, and he didn't care what they said, was my middle brother, like the one that comes after the first one. He was the only one that supported me 100%. And he complained to my mom, and he said, this is wrong. Why are you doing this? And then she cut him off for a whole entire year. She didn't talk to him. But it was really like, it was definitely forced. I didn't want to be with this person. He even came to I actually traveled to the homeland, and I even sent him a message before. When I was in America with my brothers, I was with both of my brothers and my best friend, and we all like composed this email, and we sent it to him, and we were like, I said, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I know that my mom promised you that we were gonna get married, but I'm too young, and I don't want to get married now. I still have my education to follow, and pursue, and that I don't care. I don't care about your opinion. Do you agree to meet? And that's when I got really mean. That's when I told him, no, I don't like you. Ew, why are you talking to me? But no matter what I did, no matter how much I protested, my mom, she still wanted to do this. And I had so much stress, like my hair fell out, like some of it. It was such a stressful time, because no matter what I did, my mom was always on the man's side, and she wasn't on my side. It was as if I was a stranger and he was her son, and she was trying to help him get to America, and help him have a wife, and help him have children, because he was older than me. I think he was like 35 at the time, or like 34 or something like that. I mean, if you notice, it's
You're just
always
dropping out a
a
bit there. It
common
sounds like
theme.
you're speaking slowly. That's what it sounds like.
Oh, can you hear me? Hello.
Hello there. Go ahead. Try again.
Okay. I was saying that the common theme is that the man always has to be much older than me. Of course, now in my 20s, I don't care if a person is 30, because I'm in my 20s, and I feel more like an adult. But at the time when I was 17, 18, or even 15, I felt like, oh my God, so old. And I felt this weird fear. It's not weird, honestly. It was a genuine fear of, I'm gonna be with this person. He's gonna hit me. He's gonna, make me do what he wants. And it was very stressful. I even thought about like killing myself at some point. And in fact, I actually thought about something else. I felt like if he came near me, I would stab him or something. That's what I was feeling at the time, because it was so forced. No matter what I said, she wouldn't listen. My aunt wouldn't listen. They even took me to their friend's house in a different city. They took me it's like their old girlfriends, right? And see, those women have daughters that are not married at that time. They weren't married, and they were older than me. And because they were supporting their friends, they would come and tell me, no, listen to your mom, it's for the best. And they would try to say things like, the guy is so handsome. And I would say, well, why don't you marry him if he's so handsome? I give him to you. Go ahead. Or maybe your daughter would like to marry him. Like your daughter, who's much older than me, should marry him, since she's not married. Like, I remember their daughters were nearly maybe like 26, 27, which is old in the Muslim world. So
And
and
they
also,
were married.
huh?
They were not married.
They weren't married, but me at 17, 18, I'm supposed to get married. Why? Because they were supporting their friends. And it was really evil, honestly, because I really didn't like them. It was so strange. I actually threw a temper tantrum, like in front of these people that I never met before, just because they were trying to pressure me and manipulate me so hard that I literally got so mad and like hit my head with my like fist, and I was like, no, I don't want to get married. Like it was like kind of a childish moment, but I was so stressed at the time. Like I was like, no, 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 no. Like I was like a child. Like I reverted back to being a kid or something. But maybe it's because I was a kid. That's why I had that.
Well, you
that
were
moment.
still a child, and you didn't have the, number one, we know that the critical thinking and the cognitive abilities don't develop until sort of early to mid 20s anyway, until you're fully able to use your abilities to their fullest. But I just want to pause you there for a moment,
Yes.
Sarah, because there's been a few comments there, and I'm just going to put them into a general pot. Basically, the comments are, well, hey, let's talk about something positive. Hey, let's not, keep on about this. Why are ex-Muslims, still going on about this? And I'm just going to give my view, and then obviously you can give yours.
Okay.
And the reason. So thank you for your story, number one.
Oh,
and
thank you.
to the people in the chat and those who are watching. The reason why we continue to critique Islam is because of stories like this. Because Sarah is a perfect example. Now, some of you who are watching may not enjoy Sarah's story. You might think it's personal, whatever the case is, but she's not alone. I would estimate, just off the top of my head, there's millions of girls like this that may not be, that will be in a similar situation. Maybe they will just accept it. Maybe they will fight against it. Some of them are dying. This is why we critique these sort of things. It's not because we hate Islam because we've got nothing better to do, because it impacts real people's lives. And here we're listening to somebody tell us exactly what happened for her. Now, you can dismiss her as, oh, she's just one person out of it, or maybe she just needs to learn more or whatever. There's millions of girls doing this. So, no, we're not going to stop talking about this. And ex-Muslims who want to speak about it, we're going to give them a platform to tell their story so that people can hear this, because everybody out there thinks that this isn't true. They don't have people. Here's people who are telling us the story that happened to them. So if you don't like it, please don't listen to it. But the rest of us want to hear this. We want to hear the stories of real people, because this ideology impacts people's lives, and here we're hearing it. And women are treated like crap across the world in Islam, and those that want to apologize and pretend it isn't happening are talking nonsense, and they're lying and they're being deceiving. And here we have examples. And as I've said, Sarah's not the only person. There's probably millions of women like this. So no, we're not going to stop talking about this, and we're going to continue to criticize these things that we find to be abhorrent today. And if Islam wants to reform, then they need to let go of this idea that everything in the Quran and the Hadiths that may have been okay, in inverted commas, in the 7th century is okay today, because it's not.